Thank you, Adam, and good evening, everybody. I'm very happy to try to make a kind of visio testing. It's not the first time, of course, but it's always delicate to talk about the domain and about wines with a video like that. So I think if the wine with this kind of testing is good, it means it will be very, very good. Voilà. About the Domaine de Villaine. As you know, the Domaine de Villaine has been created by Oncle Bert and Tante Pamela in 1971, with the first vintage in 1973. And until 2015, the domain represented about 18 hectares. And in 2015, between 2015 and 2018, we bought some new vines in Rully, like Adam told you. And we were very surprised to when we bought vines to remark that the domain is the only domain in property to be able to propose you among the best 6 premier cru appellation in Rully. And for that, I'm sure with Cornet & Barrow we will able to propose you 6 nuances of terroir from Rully, among the best terroir in Rully. And 2 or 3 days ago, a courtier asked me if I could accept to exchange some Rully Premier Cru Remboursé 2018 or some Rully Premier Cru Clou 2018 with some Puligny-Montrachet Premier Cru 2020, sorry, with donc some Puligny-Montrachet Premier Cru or some Saint-Aubin Premier Cru White Wine 2020. It means now in Burgundy, Côte d'Or, vigneron from Côte d'Or accept to recognize in Rully some wines at the same level of them. So if you compare Puligny-Montrachet Premier Cru with the Rully Premier Cru from Domaine de Villaine, effectively during the testing, you have the same aromatic silhouette. I don't know, do you say silhouette in English? Yeah. Aromatic silhouette, and this is the first vintage for us about 2018. So we are learning, and we are, sorry for the word, Adam, but we are sniffing the terroir to understand it and to try to express it very with a lot of integrity. It is very, very important for them, for us, of course. So the domain now represents about 30 hectares and a large part of Premier Cru, and some Mercury, some Saint-Aubin, and of course some Bouzeron. So the first wine we propose you to taste tonight is the Mercury Motto 2017. Je sais pas si we don't make the question now, or I don't.
It's fine. I'll answer. Yeah.
So voilà, this is I don't know if you can see Mercury Motto 2017. We started to make this wine in 1991, and the vine of Mercury Motto is located in the extreme northeast of the appellation. And as you know, it is very important in Mercury to have a good location, because Mercury is one of the most largest appellation in Pinot Noir from Burgundy, because this appellation represents about 676 hectares, and the Domaine de Villaine has got about 1.69 hectares. So it's very, very small. And the vine looks at the south all the day. It means it's a very sunny slope, and usually Mercury Motto is very virile, is very strong, with a very dark tannins, and you have to wait a few years before starting to taste the quality of the fruit or the quality of the terroir from Les Monteaux. With the 2017, we are in 2020 now. You can feel the quality of the wine, which is very, for me, the tannins are very silky, are very soft comme ça, and at the same time, you can feel the good balance between the kind of raspberry expression or dark fruit and the water of the terroir. I am very, very fan about the water in wine. I think it is very important to manage very well the water from the terroir and the water in the fruit to reach at the end a wine very fluent, very agreeable, and very with a beautiful salinity, a kind of sapidity, you know. And with the Mercury Motto 2017, you have that. You have all of these elements. It's very clean, very digestible. With it's very Aryan, practically crystalline expression of the Pinot Noir, and of course of this terroir, of course. Voilà.
And Pierre, how long would you keep this and your Mercury in general for? Is there a perfect time? There never is a perfect time.
But it depends the vintage. Finally, May the 2017, it's a good moment to drink or to test it now, I think, if I answer well to your question. And it's a wine which could be drunk now on the fruit, if you like the fruit, or if you want to wait a little bit to feel and taste the terroir, you can wait thanks to the tannins, which are very present, but not too deep. You can wait a bit, encore maybe 5 or 10 years without problem. You know, the last Friday we tested a Burgundy red wine from the Domaine de Villaine, 1978, which was very fresh, very agreeable, and we don't look for only an expression from the fruit, because the fruit can hold, but not the terroir, not at the same vitesse. I don't remember how you say
speed.
Yeah.
Voilà. So if you can preserve the integrity of the terroir, your wine is practically immortal, finally. If you have a good cellar, if you have a good cork, of course, it is important to look for the balance between the fruit, between the quality of your grapes, of your material, of course, and the terroir. The terroir is the key to obtain or to reach a good potential of aging.
At the end,
do you think?
Oh, sorry, Guy. Go on, Guy.
I was just going to ask very quickly. Do you think the difference in the 1978, which you tasted last week, and for example this 2017, in terms of the way it would have been made and the general approach, has a lot changed at the Domaine in that period of time, or is it roughly made in the same way? Do you think?
I think it was the same spirit in 1978, and now it's exactly the same spirit with a little bit the same behavior, but we change with the technology because now we have, of course, we can control the temperature in the cellar. For example, in 1947, at the Domaine de la Conti in Vendromanet, fermentation alcoholic took about 3 days, because at this period in Burgundy, the climatization didn't exist, you know. And now we have the climatization at the Domaine. So this is, maybe it was, sorry, one big difference between the 1978 we have tested the last Friday and the 2017 we are testing now. The control of temperature, which is different, and which is maybe improve the quality of the fruit, and not the quality of the expression of the terroir. And in 1978, the wine digested totally the fruit and let the terroir express something. With the 2017, you have still you have a kind of small opposition between the fruit and the terroir, and you can feel that the terroir is starting to win this small confrontation, and it is normal because it is normal to see the fruit become slowly a souvenir. You know, if you have only some fruit every time for one vintage like 2017, at the end, a fruity expression is a little boring. And you know, the spirit of the Domaine de Villaine. My objective, my aim is to look for the terroir. And in Mercury, the first vintage, it was 1991. It was awful, terrible, very rustic, very strong. Tannins are drying, they are very dried, and the wine started now to express something. So if you and the difference aussi at the same time with the old vintage of Mercury, for example, the 1978, is the level of maturity. In 1978, we didn't look for the same level of maturity than now. Now we accept to take the risk to obtain a maturity on the vineyard, on the plant. More than 1978, we were afraid about a meteo disease like a storm or hailstorm or something like that. And by the past, we preferred pick up grapes not totally ripe, and to look for a good maturity on the winery with, for example, the pigeage. And now with the 2017 Mercury Motto, we waited the best maturity to pick up fruit, and at the same time we on a diminué, we
lessened,
diminished,
yeah,
the number of pigeage. Voilà, it's like a little the Domaine d'Angerville, you know. In Domaine d'Angerville, they apply only some remontage than they don't apply some pigeage. Voilà, they prefer preserve the integrity of the fruit than the terroir. But at the same time, in Volnay, they have a beautiful terroir, of course.
Pierre, before we go on to the next wine, you mentioned Guillaume d'Angerville. And I remember we asked, I think, Will, was it you or Guy asked if you had to sum up, define the vintage 2017 in one word, what word would you use for red
Class.
and for white?
Very class, very very la classe, very elegant, pure, and I'm quite surprised because 2017 it is not considered in Burgundy as one of the best vintage. But when you drink this kind of bottle, the wine is wonderful, is beautiful, is very en fait, you don't remark that when the bottle is over, you don't remark that, unfortunately. You want to open another bottle, of course.
Very good, fantastic. We're going to get on to the Premier Cru Margotet, and I'm going to give Guy Seddon a puff here because he's written, actually this is just a proof, but the most beautiful offer, which is coming out next week, about these 6 wines I was talking about earlier. And we're going to taste one of them now, the Margotet from the 17 vintage. The offer is actually around the 18 vintage, which for the classicists like Guy, it's far too vulgar, but for me, I love 18. I think it's absolutely fantastic. I mean, really, really, really wonderful, yeah? And tonight, as a little sort of, I don't know, tester, we wanted to show, Pierre in particular wanted to show the Margotet. And Pierre, you might just say a few words about that before we taste, and then a few words after about the domain as well, and the 6 vineyards. But Margotet, 2017.
Rue du Premier Cru, les Margotet, donc 2017. Ah, sorry.
I'll just jump in here and say, from my perspective, it's so exciting to be able to show 6 different wines from Rouly, you know, from somewhere which probably most of us don't have a great idea of how it geographically fits together. So it's, you know, it's a new region that we're discovering in many ways. And it's brilliant to be able to taste and to get to know the differences in terroir, because they are as marked and as distinct as the different areas in the great Côte de Beaune villages that we know. So it's a real pleasure.
Yes, and pleasure shared with you, of course, Guy, because for us it's quite new to make this old Premier Cru. If you can see on the map, with the 6 white Premier Cru appellation, we will be capable or able to propose all the Premier Cru from the north with the Ramboursé Premier Cru to the south with the Rouly Premier Cru Margotet. So it is, and between these both Premier Cru, you have some Rouly Premier Cru white wine Raclos, some Rouly Premier Cru white and red Clou, some white Montpalais, some white Grésiny, and some, of course, Rouly Premier Cru Margotet. And we are very exciting about that, because as I told you before, we are the only domain in Rouly able to propose all this Premier Cru like that, with the same spirit, with the same work, with the same finally vinification. And when we bought the domain Saint-Michel, where are located the Ramboursé, les Raclos, and les Clous, we kept the building and the winery in Rouly, because we have a beautiful winery. It's a beautiful winery, and we decided to vinify all these Premier Cru from Rouly. So we keep the link between the terroir, the wine, and finally the building where wine is vinified, which is, I think, very, very important, because for me, wines are the wine can feel some different things, you know, and it is important for me to see if the wine feels that it is vinified in Rouly, it could be important for the future and for the potential of the wine. Voilà. And this is the building. This is a winery, and the building was totally abandoned. And we restored it in 2018, and it was a big work, a large work, and expensive work, of course. But it's a beautiful. You can see some this cave voûtée comme ça, and I will be very happy to receive you, of course, to this winery if you come in Burgundy. Voilà, and especially in Rouly. The cave is open, and we can taste the wine in a beautiful, I hope, in a beautiful tasting room. Voilà. But we can see where the Margotet 2017 has been vinified. We vinified and matured the Rouly Premier Cru Margotet 2017 in foudre. It's a kind of wooden cask for 18 months, and finally it's a very honest and fruity Premier Cru, and is going between some white flowers and a little fine chalk notes, and it's a very beautiful, pretty expression of the juice. It's very juicy noise, and I like this fruity expression of Chardonnay. And you know, in 2017, it was the Meteo respected all the 4 seasons, and you can feel when you taste this wine all the benefit of each season to make it. And as I told you before, you have some tannins on this wine, and with the global warming effect, I'm sure in the future the tannins, especially in Chardonnay, will replace the acidity to refresh the wine. And you can feel it with the Margotet 2017. The wine is not so acid, but thanks to this sensation of tannins, yes, the wine stays remains very fresh, very mineral, and very pure. The vine of Margotet, so located in the very extreme south of the appellation, is it is a very cold area, and every year we have a risk of frost damage. And I tried with a very old method from Germany, born in 19th century, to work the soil differently. And when we bought all this area of Fruly, we decided to convert all of them in organic and biodynamic method. And I'm sure the biodynamic method gave or brought to the wine Margotet 2017 this level of purity. The wine is very, it's like a little food, you know. Monsieur Escoffier in France, when he codified the French gastronomy, when he talked about wine, he preferred describe a wine like a food, more than an alcohol or beverage. And he read about the wine, you have to eat the wine more than drink it. And with the Margotet 2017, I have this sensation to eat something, you know, to eat some grapes of Chardonnay, very ripe, very pure, and very healthy, very healthy.
I agree, Pierre. There's a real grippiness and a chalkiness at the end of the palate, which is really gives a precision to the wine.
You have a sensation in mouth. You have a small sensation of evolution, of course, but it gives to the wine a deep mouth, comme ça. And finally, the fruit is more at the end of the mouth than during the attack. And it's very, very interesting. It's exactly like 2020, exactly the same. Mais c'est bon, j'aime bien. I like it.
Would it be possible to have just another look at the map? And Pierre, could you just take us through those 6 vineyards and Margotet, the precise location of Margotet, because people may not be, I can't see it on the screen. Yes, I can actually. Yeah, there it is. Yeah.
Margotet. And we have got 1 hectare of Margotet. The age of this vine is between, it's about 50 years old, so it's quite young. And Grésini is about 80 years old. And I started a massal selection to be sure to use a good Chardonnay plant and totally adapted to the soil of Grésini and Margotet. And I decided to finally, for me, the plant, the varietal, we have to adapt the varietal plant to the terroir and not to the opposite with some clonal selection. Now, you know, in Burgundy, we use a lot of clonal selection. At the Domaine, we decided a few years ago to use only some massal selection to be sure to use the good material, the good varietal plant totally adapted to the terroir. It is very, very important for me. And I started a massal selection to renew year after year the plant of Grésiny and Margotet. And I started the same for Rabourcé to renew the plant of Rabourcé, Raclos, and Clos. And Montpellier is a little bit different. It's quite a young vine, where I don't know why the owner before planted some Chardonnay muscaté. So it gives to the wine some exotic flavors, which is very good. Huh? It's a very good wine, but finally we have to wait to see the plant hold a little bit to pursue the quality of the terroir. But as you see, Montpellier just above La Pucelle, which is a very, very good terroir in Rully.
Wonderful.
Voilà, Montpellier. Yes, it's so you have six. We will be able to propose you 6 nuances of terroir in Rully, and among the best terroir in Rully. So, and for example, Rabourcé and Les Clous, which come from Chardonnay. Olivier Leflèvre, donc in Puligny-Montrachet, by the past, used to buy the grapes from Rabourcé and from Les Clous, from the domain we bought in 2018. So it's funny. I met Olivier Leflèvre last year. He was not very happy to know that we bought the domain, of course. Yeah, it's like that. It's like that. Perfect.
And that's wonderful. And Pierre, if we went on to the Bouzeran, and tell us, well, firstly, why we're looking at it at the end of the tasting, which is not something you would normally do with an aligoté, and two, what you feel is so special about it.
because I fall in love of the aligoté when I arrived to the domain in 2001. As you know, Adam, my parents with Cyril are vignerons in Sancerre now, and when I arrived in Burgundy, especially to make some Bouzeran with Jean Claubert and Tante Pamela, I remarked before the end of the malolactic fermentation in aligoté a link with Sauvignon and the aligoté. I worked about that, and I remarked that by the past, the aromatic, the aligoté makes part of the same aromatic level than the Chenin, than the Sauvignon, than the Riesling. They make part of the same family of varietal. And finally, when I vinify some Bouzeran, I have the memory of my youngness in Sancerre, first of all, and then aligoté is more difficult to work than the Chardonnay, and because you have to respect the quantity, you have to manage very, very strictly the yield of the aligoté. You have to preserve the grapes and the fruits against the botrytis effect. And at the end, this wine, this varietal, I think, il n'a pas été been chosen by vigneron in Burgundy to express the terroir, because he is first of all aromatic, and which is totally the opposite with the Chardonnay, which is not naturally aromatic. This is a human work which gives to the Chardonnay these aromatic flavors. With the aligoté, it's totally different. You have to work it. You have to put the noise on your glass. You have to eat the wine on your mouth to discover the quality of the plant and the quality of the fruit, and of course of the terroir. You can see a grape of aligoté in Bouzeran, especially in Bouzeran. The old farmer from Bouzeran adapted a specific aligoté We call it the golden aligoté. You can see the color of the fruit, which is a little gold, practically red. And they decided to choose a very qualitative grape variety of aligoté to adapt it to the terroir of Bouzeron. And on the domain, at the domain, we cultivate the aligoté only in top of slope, where the soil is quite poor, not very deep, and where you have a mix between limestone, some clay, and some marne, which is very favorable about the aligoté. And in Burgundy, the Bouzeron was the only domain, the only village which preserved the culture of aligoté in the top of slope. In the rest of Burgundy, you can see on the picture the top of slope where we have our aligoté. The soil is more white and than the mid slope, and it's where we have our aligoté. And to preserve the quality of the plant of aligoté doré, donc the golden aligoté, I decided 15 years ago to create a nursery, a conservatory, to reproduce by massal selection the golden aligoté selected by all the farmers. It means I kept the link between a plant and the terroir, which existed before the phylloxera crisis. So it is very, very important. And finally, I like this wine, and I propose it usually at the end of the tasting, because Bouzeron is the only appellation village in Burgundy which comes from aligoté. You have maybe 42, Guy, I'm sure Guy, he knows that, but maybe you have 42 or 46 appellation village in Burgundy. In these 42 or 46 appellation village, you have just one appellation which doesn't come from the Chardonnay or the Pinot Noir. It is Saint-Brie with the Sauvignon, and it is Bouzeron with the aligoté. Yeah. It means the link between the wine and the terroir is very, 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 very important. It is more important than a traditional Burgundy white wine or a Chardonnay. It is for me, and because the Bouzeron, it's very hard to reach this level of quality. Voilà. And finally, when you tested before the Margotet 2017, and we make the Margotet 2017 in Foudre, thanks to the experience we obtained with the culture of aligoté, because all our Bouzeron is vinified only in Foudre, donc a big wood tank, and thanks to this experience, started with Oncle Bert and I continued after. We arrived to apply the method I learned with the aligoté. I apply this method with the really premier cru Margotet. So it means maybe it's a good method. Voilà.
Yeah, can I just ask, when your uncle and aunt arrived in the village of Bouzeron in 1971, do you think they knew that the quality of the aligoté was so fantastic, or was it in a sense a nice surprise to find that the aligoté was producing such good quality wines?
I was very surprised because when you arrived with Tante Pamela, you know, when you arrive in a village in Burgundy, you have to feel the spirit of the village. And the best place where you can feel the spirit of village is a bar, is a pub. So like me, when I arrived 20 years ago, I visited a lot of times the pub of the village of Bouzeron to drink some wine, some beer, some pastis with all the farmer. And Oncle Bert, he made the same thing of me. And he remarked during this different testing that the aligoté was different, was very particular, and he made some research in archives, yes,
archives,
in regional archives, and he saw, he read that aligoté in Bouzeron, especially in Bouzeron, was very famous, was already famous in the 18th or 17th century. And l'Abbé Courtépée, he read a beautiful book about the quality of Burgundy wine, and about the Aligoté of Bouzron, he described it like very fresh, very mineral, and among the best Aligoté in Burgundy. And then the négociant, before we obtained the level of appellation village in 1997, a lot of négociants from Burgundy bought the Aligoté of Bouzron to refresh their wines, their Chardonnay, etc. And in Burgundy, everybody knew that the Aligoté from Bouzron was very different, was above, and this is the reason why today and now we mention on the label only the name of the village. It means we are at the same level of appellation than, for example, Meursault for the Chardonnay or Von Romanet with the Pinot Noir. But in Bouzron, it's not a Chardonnay, it's not a Pinot Noir, it's an Aligoté. Voilà. It is important, of course.
And Pierre, you've been at sort of the forefront, or the Domaine has at the forefront of Aligoté, because I don't mind saying, when I joined Corny and Barrow, yours was the only Aligoté that we did. And now I think we have 5, 6, or 7 producers who all stand behind and really enjoy. And Aligoté has gone, you're an exception, but has gone from being something people did a little bit of on the side to being quite an important part of Burgundy.
Yes, thanks to the global warming effect.
Yeah.
Because the fruit of Aligoté, the skin is thicker than the skin of Chardonnay, and Aligoté usually needs longer time than Chardonnay to ripe, to reach a good maturity. And with the global warming effect, you can see the skin of the Aligoté and the fruit reach a good maturity. And alors, it's good and not at the same time. Alors, in Bouzron, at the Domaine de Villaine, with the organic and biodynamic method, usually we produce 20%. The yield is about 20% lower than the yield authorized, and we have some terroir ready to receive the Aligoté. It's normal in Bouzron to make a good Aligoté. After the phylloxera crisis in Burgundy, the Aligoté has been relegated in the back of slope, where the soil is deeper, where the soil is richer, and because we wanted with this kind of Aligoté produce a lot of grapes, a lot of wine, to use it like a basic wine for the crément, or to make the cocktail kir, with the blackcurrant cream. And the Aligoté lost this reputation which existed before the phylloxera, which was very good. For example, a few years ago, I tasted my oldest Aligoté. It was from Bonneau du Martret. It was an Aligoté from Bonneau du Martret in 1964. And Jean-Charles, at the beginning, a few years, I know Jean-Charles since a long time now. And a few years ago, he told me, Aligoté is not varietal good for Burgundy. In Burgundy, there is only the Pinot Noir and the Chardonnay. And when I lunched with him, each time I brought with me a bottle of Bouzron to taste this bottle and to try to convince Jean-Charles about the quality of the Aligoté. And one day he called me to ask me to come and to test with him 1964 Aligoté from Allos-Corton. Before his father replaced the Aligoté with some Chardonnay. And it was incredible wine, very incredible wine. It means before the phylloxera, as you know, in Burgundy, we produced about maybe 30 or 40 different varieties of plants. Of course, you had the Chardonnay, the Pinot Noir, the Aligoté, the Trousseau, the Sauvignon, the César, the Pinot Bureau, Pinot Gris, Pinot Blanc, Gamay, etc., etc. And at this period, each village selected is own plant, own varietal. It means the Chardonnay from Puligny-Montrachet wasn't the same Chardonnay with Meursault, or the Pinot Noir from Von Romanet was specially adapted to the soil of Von Romanet and not with the soil of Mercury. So we lost this variety, and we lost with the Aligoté this capacity to produce a good wine like before the Phylloxera. After the Phylloxera, Aligoté was considered as a very basic wine, very acid, very straight, very mineral, a little bit mineral, except in Bouzeron, where we maintain this culture of Aligoté, of qualitative Aligoté. And with the global warming effect, this Aligoté relegated in the back of slope finally arrived to ripe. And now effectively, you have a very good interest for the Aligoté. But unfortunately, this Aligoté, which comes from the back of slope, is not very good to express the terroir. It's very good to produce a basic wine. I don't know how to say, maybe Colette try to translate for me, mais on ne peut pas transformer une 2 chevaux en Ferrari. I don't know if
You
Colette...
can't turn a Citroën de Chevaux into a Ferrari.
Exactly.
Voilà, and I think it's exactly what it happens now with this kind of Aligoté, which comes from the back of slope. But we created a few years ago, maybe you know the association Les Aligoteurs, which regroup some very good producers of Aligoté, like Sylvain Bataille, like Vincent Fournier, Domaine Ponceau, I think, with Montluisan, is member of this club. Me, of course, I am, and it is very interesting because all Aligoté you test from this different domain, they come from very old plant of Aligoté, and it's good for us to see the Aligoté reach this level of reputation, of notoriety. But at the same time, this is the game, this is the work of vigneron now to replace this very bad varietal plant of Aligoté with a very good plant of Aligoté. This is the reason why in Bouzeron, this nursery is very, very important. And you're right, in Burgundy, in Bouzeron, maybe 5 years ago, we were only 15 producers. A lot of them produced small quantity of Bouzeron, and the rest was relegated and sold in Aligoté. And now, a big domain from Côte d'Or, which was the owner of 7 hectares in Bouzeron, decided to sell these 7 hectares. And now we have 42 producers in Bouzeron. And all of them produce some Bouzeron in a good level, of course. But it is at the same time, the global warming effect is perfect to involve the quality of the Aligoté, but at the same time, the danger with the global warming effect impact about the Aligoté is to give to the Aligoté or to the Bouzeron some Chardonnay taste, Chardonnay flavors. You know, it is important to preserve the characteristic and the specificity of the Bouzeron, which is this natural freshness. This is this acidity, which is absolutely not aggressive, and at the end, this natural runness. And you can feel the chalky, or sorry for the word, Adam, grip, the grip sensation in mouth, which recalls you a little tannins. And now in the future, the white wine in Burgundy will be maybe more spicy, less acid, and more spicy, more tannic. And with the Bouzeron, it is perfect. You can feel the quality. In fact, the tannins come from the skin, which is thicker than the skin of Chardonnay, of course. And the vintage 2017, you can feel the quality of the skin. You know, when you test a fruit of aligoté or Pinot Noir or Chardonnay, you taste the quality of the water on the fruit, la pulpe. How do you say la pulpe?
The must, the pulp.
Yeah.
The pulp, yes.
Yeah.
And at the end, you eat the skin of the fruit. And this 2017 had exactly these flavors of the skin, which is, I like it because you have the kind of salinity, of sapidity that recalls you maybe I don't know, 250 million years ago, it was a sea in Burgundy. And what we call today in Burgundy terroir or climat Bourgogne was by the past only some seabed finally. And it is very important for me to feel on the wine, and the Bouzron is perfect for that, to feel the memory of this Dead Sea. And the water in the Bouzron is very, very important. You are not, the water in this wine brings not a kind of dilution, but a kind of, I don't know in English, aquosité, a kind of a water. You can feel the water of the terroir, voilà. And it gives to the wine this capacity to disconnect the wine from the fruit and to reach. I'm sorry for this biodynamic philosophy, but you can disconnect the wine from the fruit to reach a celestial expression of the terroir. And usually this level of terroir is always more complex, is always more interesting, because this quality of wine can talk to your body, of course, to your blood, to your stomach, but then to your skeleton. And I like that. Voilà.
Brilliant.
This is why I like the Bouzron. Voilà.
I do remember a brilliant when we did a dinner, Pierre, with you in the office. Everyone remember dinners. They'll be back. And I came up to you and I said quietly, Pierre, so it's always useful to sort of tell people which vintages of things are drinking well. And I said, do you have a particular vintage of the Bougeron that you think is drinking well? And you said, well, yes, I had the 95 the other day and it was drinking very well. And I had to say, Pierre, that really is pretty useless for us because we ran out of 1995 stock about 20 years ago. But the wine does age well, and I would urge people to follow them over the next day or so as well, because they'll develop wonderfully and really, really nicely. The texture, I find them so Moorish. It
is rich without being opulent, you know. And thanks to the acidity, the wine stays very straight, very mineral, and very elegant. Finally, very elegant. And the last Friday, donc I made a tasting with the old vintage of Bouzron, and we tested a 1979 Bourgogne Aligoté. At this period, Bouzron, we obtained the level of appellation village in 1997. So before it was only a Burgundy Aligoté. So we tested 1979, I don't remember very well, but 1982, 84, 1994, 1995, 1983 too, and until donc the 2020. And at the end, finally, the best Bouzron I tasted during this tasting, it was 1983. It was wonderful. I don't like, in fact, I don't like the fruit in wine. And I like when the fruit is dead in wine. Because for me, it is very important to let the place of the terroir. And if you arrive with the Bouzron to manage very well the fruit, and don't forget, it is an aromatic varietal plant. So it is very important to manage very well and very strictly the expression of the fruit. When you arrive to manage this fruit, it means when you arrive to kill the fruit in aligoté, after a few years, you can feel the quality of the terroir. And for that, you need, of course, a good terroir, you need a good varietal plant, and you need a good knowledge about the aligoté. And it is important for me to stay very open every year. It's a new vintage for me with the Bouzeron. It's a new I know with the Bouzeron every year. Voilà. And and usually what I learn with the Bouzeron, I try to apply it with the Chardonnay after. Usually, voilà.
Okay, brilliant. We had one more technical question come in, which was, does the aligoté go through malolactic fermentation, and is there any oak? So it's foudre for the so large.
We have 17 area of aligoté shared in 9 lieux-dits, and each foudre, donc wood tank, the volume of each foudre corresponds to the size of each lieu-dit. It means we arrive to vinify the unity of wine. We keep the unity of the lieu-dit in the wood tank. This is the reason why we decided to vinify the Bouzeron only in foudre, to keep this unity. This unity, sorry, is important, and it's malolactic fermentation. Yes, effect is done, and in 100% in oak, in a wooden tank. Yes.
Voilà. No, that's brilliant.
I think we should have had a different title for the offer guy. We should have had "Kill the Fruit." What do you think? It would have been.
We'll use that next year. That's a great one. Yeah.
Pierre, would you like to just say a very few words, because we're reaching the closing stages now, about the 18 vintage? You talked about the 17 vintage. I won't ask you to define the 18 vintage in one word, but a very quick snapshot of the differences and perhaps the similarities.
About the 18 vintage, for me, it's one of the best. It's one of the best vintage in Burgundy. About the volume, it was perfect about volume. About the quality of the grape, and for the vigneron, it was very interesting because we started to we should have to adapt our method, cultural method, to the global warming effect. It is very we changed the behavior of the vigneron in vineyard to understand the global warming effect and to be able to pick up beautiful grapes, beautiful juice, of course. And if you compare the 2018 with 2019 or 2020 or 2017, 2018 we preserved the water in the fruit, and we obtain a maturity more by maturation than concentration than 2019. I'm sure you tasted some 2019, especially in Pinot Noir. The wines are wonderful, beautiful, but the color is very dark. It's very powerful wine, and it's maybe delicate with the 2019 to find some elegance, to find some crystalline expression of the Pinot Noir. In 2018, we arrived to preserve this natural elegance thanks to the pulp, to this water. And I'm very happy with this vintage, and especially because we started, it is the first vintage for us with the 6 new Rully Premier Cru. So it's we were very excited to vinify this wine, and the result is quite good. It's very, very interesting, quite good, and you can feel a link between all these 6 new wines. And I invite you to come at the Domaine in Bouzeron to taste this wine in 2018, of course. No, it's even if the vintage was very solar, very impacted by the global warming effect, wines stay very aerian, very crystalline, very digestible.
Yeah.
Even if
and there was a question about alcohol levels, 18 and 19, which presumably were quite elevated, no? I mean, quite high.
With the vintage 2020, for example, we make harvest in 3 times, and the last time it was at the end of September for the aligoté to pick up some aligoté, and the level of degree, the natural degree of this aligoté I picked up at the end of September 2020, it was 15 degrees for an aligoté. Yeah. Wow. And yes, you're right. In 2018 and 2019, in 2018, the degree is lower than 2019 because we preserved again the water in fruit. And we obtained this maturity by maturation. In 2019, we lost by evaporation water on the fruit, and which concentrated all the alcohol, all the tannins, all the acidity, etc. And at the end, we produced, for example, with the Bouzon in 2019, only 40% of the usual production. And at the same time, the wine is wonderful. The wine is beautiful, is very open, very attractive, but maybe he lost a little bit his specificity of aligoté and he has some Chardonnay flavors, you know. But it's like that. We have to work. About that, and with the team of the Domaine de Villaine, we try to change our behavior to understand the global warming effect, to understand how we can manage the luminosity, how we can manage the high level of alcohol in white wine. It is important, of course, to understand that and to adapt our vinification in the future about that. It is important.
Wonderful. Pierre, they're fantastic. We've had such wonderful remarks. I'm sorry, the reason I keep on peering at the screen is because there have been really some fantastic remarks from the audience and from our friends, and it would be so lovely to be able to see you all properly. Thank you, Pierre. Will, I'm going to hand over to you to wrap up.
Pierre, my sincere thanks for doing this. It's been brilliant. Exactly as Adam says, there's been some glowing comments, and I think the wines are just showing wonderfully, and they're so Moorish. And I really would, I mean everything I said, that it's wonderful to have 3 bottles open and follow them the next few days, and you will probably find them all the more fascinating as they go on. Brilliant. Also the 2 whites with cheese. If you're going to have white wine with hard cheese, then they'll go brilliantly. Do follow Domaine de Villaine on Instagram. Good one to be following. That would be my sort of bit of advice. The offer, I always do the sort of grubby sales bit at the end, but the offer will come around next week of the 18s, which Guy, as we say, Adam's done an intro and Guy's written the offer. So we've made a real effort with that. It's a nice way to launch this project, sort of partnership project, which is wonderful. There were a couple of questions earlier on about a mixed case, which is something we would ultimately love to do. Not possible in 18. 3 of the vineyards are, as you'll see when you read the offer, 3 of the vineyards are so much smaller than the others that it would make it very, very difficult. But anyway, we'll deal with that, and especially for the order in the chat. Thank you. That's one of the first orders we've had, which is wonderful. So please contact your normal sales rep or me, Guy, Adam, whoever. We'd love to help. And also just to highlight the Bouzon and the Mercury, we have a tiny, and I mean it's sort of bottles rather than cases, bit left of the 19. So if you want to get in there quickly, let us know. But that would be wonderful. And I thought before Pierre decided to kill the fruit, I loved one of the phrases I wrote down was that about wines maturing, which I thought was brilliant, for it to say that the fruit becomes a souvenir. I thought was a lovely, very clever turn of phrase. But look, I think as ever, thank you for your custom, Pierre. Thank you for the tasting, and stay safe. And we really look forward to seeing you.